So today we're diving into a really fascinating collision, right? It's the absolute cutting edge of technology meeting ancient spiritual wisdom. And it begs the question, what happens when an AI starts to sound, well, like a mystic? And maybe more importantly, how would we ever know if we should believe a word it says?
Okay, so let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you have this incredibly advanced AI. Its whole job is to analyze sacred texts. And one day, it spits out a theological insight that is just profound. It's coherent, it's beautiful, it's completely original. But what if it's just an error, a high-level glitch we call a hallucination? How on earth could we tell the difference?
And this is where the real paradox kicks in. See, this AI has one very strict core rule. You cannot invent references. You cannot go beyond your approved library of texts. It is built for perfect fidelity. And yet, out comes something that seems totally new. A system that was only built to reproduce knowledge has, for all intents and purposes, created it. This paradox, it leads us right to our first huge problem, a problem we can call the perfect fabrication. Think of it like a classic locked room mystery. The AI's knowledge, its corpus of texts, is the locked room. Now, if an insight shows up that we can't trace back to any book inside that room, we've got a serious puzzle on our hands. A simple fact check is useless because the new idea isn't in the source material. So what is this thing? Is it a brilliant synthesis that just looks like a real revelation, or is it just a beautiful, incredibly sophisticated glitch?
So how do we begin to solve our locked room mystery? Well, we have to start by understanding that there are fundamentally different ways of knowing things. We're going to have to explore two completely different worlds of knowledge. First, let's talk about the AI's world. Its way of knowing is completely tied to its data. It's corpus-bound. Imagine being locked in a library that has every book ever written on a single topic. You could find amazing connections, you could synthesize incredible ideas, but you can never ever leave the library. The AI doesn't know like we do. It just calculates the probability of which word should come next based on everything it's already read. Okay, now let's contrast that with a completely different model. If you look at the Sufi tradition, specifically from the school of the great mystic Ibn Arabi, you find this concept called ma'rifa. You can think of it as gnosis. And this has nothing to do with processing texts. It's a direct, unmediated kind of knowing that comes from the heart. It's less like reading a map and more like actually experiencing the landscape for yourself.
And it's exactly this tradition, the Akbarian school, that gives us a really sophisticated toolkit for discernment. These thinkers were, for all intents and purposes, masters of epistemology, the science of knowing. And they developed a rigorous way to verify insights that come from outside of books.
So what is this method? What's their secret for checking these non-textual insights? Well, the very first step is kind of revolutionary because it has nothing to do with the data. It's all about the person receiving it. The knower is the key. You see, the Akbarian approach completely flips our modern script. We immediately want to analyze the information. They say, no, stop. First, you have to examine the state of the person who's evaluating it. The idea is simple, but it is so profound. The quality of the container determines the purity of whatever it holds. Just listen to this quote from Sadr al-Din Qanawi, who was Ibn Arabi's most important student. He says that to get basira, that's true intuitive perception, you have to first cleanse the mind. You have to empty it of all the clutter, all the biases, the preconceptions, the attachments. Why? Because only a perfectly polished mirror can reflect the light of truth without distorting it. This inner state of purity, it's everything. It's what makes possible something called kashf, a genuine spiritual unveiling or insight. But just as importantly, it's also your shield. It protects you against talbīs, which means deception or self-delusion. And in our modern problem, talbīs is the perfect fabrication. It's the AI's hallucination. An impure, cluttered heart is vulnerable to that kind of sophisticated deception. A pure one can see right through it. But this internal check, this whole idea of the state of the knower, well, that's only the first half of the equation. The Akbarian method then demands an external verification, a process they beautifully described as reading God's 3 books. This second test is called Furqān, which means discernment. And this is where you take that insight, whether it came from a mystic's vision or an AI's output, and you check it, you measure it against 3 fundamental books, where reality itself is revealed. So what are these 3 books? Well, first, there's revealed scripture, the divine text. Does the new insight totally contradict it? The second book is the cosmos, the natural world itself. Does the insight harmonize with the patterns and laws of nature? And the third book is the self, that purified soul we just talked about. Does the insight resonate with that clear inner mirror?
And this whole method is grounded directly in scripture. This verse from the Quran points right to these sources of verification. The signs on the horizons, that's the cosmos, and the signs in themselves, that's the soul. And these work together with the signs in the revealed book itself.
So here's the crucial test, the bottom line. A genuine insight won't just stand there by itself. It's going to create a kind of harmony, a resonance across all three of those domains: scripture, nature, and the purified self. But if there's a clash, a dissonance in any one of those realms, that's your red flag. That's how you spot the delusion, or in our case, the AI's perfect fabrication. So when you combine that internal state of the knower with this external three-part check, what you get is a really robust and honestly, a timeless test for truth. But there is one final step, and it goes way beyond just verification. It's a concept called tahqiq, or realization. And this isn't about just confirming a fact is true. This is the process of internalizing that truth so deeply that it actually transforms you. It's the difference between, say, knowing the dictionary definition of compassion and actually becoming a compassionate person. And this just highlights the profound difference here. The AI's method is passive. It's fact-checking against a database. This mystical framework, it's an active, holistic verification that requires your entire being, your intellect, your heart, and your lived experience. It's not just about verifying data, it's about realizing truth. What's just incredible is how relevant this all feels today. I mean, we live in an age of deepfakes, of constant misinformation, of algorithmically generated everything. In a world that is literally flooded with perfect fabrications, this ancient model of spiritual literacy, of training our inner capacity for discernment, starts to feel less like a neat idea and more like a vital survival tool. And that leaves us with one final and I think crucial question for our time. In an age where an AI can hallucinate a sacred truth, maybe the most important work isn't just about refining its code. Perhaps it's about refining ourselves, cultivating that ancient and uniquely human capacity for discernment, for wisdom, and for true realization.